Mbak, apa nih rambut awak jadi?
Cat Girl Furrier says, test. Marcellus says, can anyone invite me to Guild for Quest, S?
Welcome
Spire
to
Baby says, 8,888.
Azel Project.
MHNZ says, you can apply to our guild in Quad, Ineffable Iron Quad.
Ini belum.
Says,
Ya,
22.
jarang-jarang
LD.
ada game RPG, MMORPG di PS. Ada tapi nggak banyak.
Says,
Bagi
T.
open world kan. MMO loh ini.
Says, T. Audi QQQ says,
Oh, what do I do? I was think in the meantime.
says, you have acquired Cursed Rain completion reward, S. Beelzebub Fly says, don't join that guy, he don't. Beelzebub Fly says, he just think he do. Triage says, DPS. Says, you have acquired the once peaceful Ryfields completion reward, S. Triage says, DPS. Poker says, D.
Nah, masih kita pelajarin ya soalnya.
To do that, please.
Says, you have acquired examine the contaminate. XF says, Triage says, DPS. Audi QQQ says, says, killed Megalobster. Says, killed Chestation. Says, killed Megalobster. Says, killed Hermit Lobster. Last Devil says, son of, says, killed Megalobster. Says, you have acquired examine the contamination of the shore completion, says, killed Hermit Lobster, says, Cat Girl Furrier says, Nemagudo says, Joel. Sifina says, need a tank to sign up for Cave of Destruction. Says, the notification enabled, peace, wolf hunting contest schedule has begun. Says, killed Hermit Lobster.
Berubah deh.
Nemagudo says, add me on Jonathan Smith Cruz very handsome man. Says, killed Chestation. Nemagudo says, FB go add. Says, you have acquired examine the contamination of the shore completion reward, S. Beelzebub Fly says, you know doxing is bannable bro. Says, killed Megalobster. Beelzebub Fly says, Beelzebub Flies' party need 1 DPS. Q Tyrant says, killed large stone crab.
If anyone finds...
Says, you have acquired a sailor's letter completion reward, S. Jake the Ginge says, Qui says, Qui says, Jake the Ginge says, we need tank for LVL 50 Temple of Slaughter MSGME. Beelzebub Fly says, Beelzebub Flies' party need Beelzebub Fly says, Beelzebub Flies' party need 1 DPS. Q Tyrant Q DPS. Nemagudo says, sure bro. Jake the Ginge says, we need tank for LVL 50 Temple of Slaughter MSGME, says. 20 tilde ID. Last Devil says, Kove Jumples Jumpotus Snjlafas Jumps asterisk 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 asterisk. Cat Girl Furrier says, Onichantasu Keta. Says. God AO says, can anyone God AO says, ZL Raw says, healer needed to Roaring Temple, Q please, says, crustaceans called crackles are often found in the wrecks near Windhill Shores. Says, 1. Beelzebub Fly says, LFDPSQ on tyrants.
It said that a hunter once won the wolf hunting contest by secretly using crackle meat as bait.
Mban says, where can I find my ping? Nemagudo says, you just can't. ZL Raw says, healer needed to Roaring Temple, Q please. Nemagudo says, no option for that. Says, used quality recovery crystal. Says, used quality base material selection chest X10. ZL Raw says, wait. ZL Raw says, one outside. Says, used tasty food selection chest, 15 minutes. Says, killed Scarab. God AO says, you can find your ping in Task Manager. Says, killed Wasp. Says, killed Wasp. Says, killed Scarab. Says, killed Scarab. Says, garden. Says, stat distribution complete. Says. Says, killed Scarab. Says, killed wasp. Says, killed violent harvester. Says, killed scarab. Says, killed violent harvester. Says, killed scarab. Jessica says, Eridus. Says, killed wasp. Says, you have acquired the once peaceful Ryfield's completion reward, S. Says, killed Chestation. XF says, 778. Boss Ray says, Alad. XF says, killed large stone crab.
Itu baru level 9, kan baru main hari ini. Baru
Spam
main.
says, okay. Spam says, Alad.
Tadi gue coba kan pindah ke Ardius langsung bisa. Udah nggak rame. Pakai tiketnya ke Ardius semua aja nanti. Biar satu server.
Unfortunate says, you have acquired Fisherman's Bait completion reward, S.
When fishing boats are sunk by the perilous reefs, chunks of the bait the anglers use are sometimes found in the chests that wash ashore from the wreckage. Their pungent smell is highly effective at luring in wolves.
Kalau awal masih quest aja dulu kali ya buat leveling ya.
Says, you have entered a safe zone. Spam says, Ma Alad Ako.
Are you back already? That was fast.
Says, you have acquired the boss Ray says, when you returned with the ingredients, the Lord's aide was greatly relieved that he could proceed with the contest as intended. He asked you to deliver the new bait to the Lord's brother, Chris, in Black Hollow Plains. He also is the head of the Wolf Hunters Association, so you'll need to talk to him to acquire a keepsake.
Yang ini armor ungu nih yang bagus. Masih banyak yang dipelajarin dulu.
Jake the Ginge says, cute Gemple of Slaw. Jake the Ginge says, we at boss. POVN says, LFG Siloys ***** farm dungeon contract. POVN says, LFG Siloys **** says, completed nesting grounds destroyer milestone and acquire. POVN says, LFG Siloys 3 franc M4 franc farm dungeon contract. Says, used quality. Onyx says, any Filipino/English guild recruiting. Says, acquired all 2 leveling log rewards. Says, acquired battle pass rewards. Says, 20 tilde ID. Says, you have acquired recipe for rancid powder completion reward, S. Jake the Ginge says, cute Gemple of Slaughter Tank. Jake the Ginge says, we at boss. Boss Ray says, fine team. Says. Audi QQQ says. Kufal says, Kufal's party tyrant aisle -1 tank, 1 healer. Boss Ray says, LVL 30 Coop Dungeon Sali Na. Says. HPDCY says, 50. Prostitute says, LF and Nest grind. Kim Josh G says. Says, you have entered a peace zone. Says, DPS slash. Says, DPS slash. Prostitute says, peace, wolf hunting contest is a peace zone where you cannot attack other players. Says, DPS slash DPS slash. Says, you have entered a peace zone. Says, DPS slash DPS. Kim Josh G says, last one for healer Duke Magna matchmaking. Says. Jake the Ginge says, cute Gemple of Slaughter Tank. Jake the Ginge says, we at boss. Helbrinford Orgo says, LF Guild. Says, DPS/DPS/. Says, peace, wolf hunting contest is a peace zone where you cannot attack other players. Says, DPS/DPS/.
The delivery for this campsite is already finished. Try another campsite.
This vast plain was once a cherished village.
Prostitute says, LF and Nest says, you participated in peace, wolf hunt says, DPS/DPS/. Says, all of the wolf tail in your possession disappeared.
Agak nge-lag ya.
XF says, Z. Says, 20 tilde ID. Juan he says, LF and GT, chill and active members to join. XF says,
Where is the person the Lord? Oh, wait, the hunting but I have an idea. Your wolf fangs can be
says, T/D says, you have acquired Chris, head of the Wolf Hunters Association completion reward, S. Says, you have entered a peace zone. Says, T/DPS/T/DPS/. Says, on duty. 60 says, T/DPS/. Says, killed Black Howl Wolf. Spam says, how long does it take for the Queen Bloods? XF says, 111 sextillion 111 quintillion 111 quadrillion 111 trillion. XF says, T/. Guav says, 1 sextillion, says, T/. Says, killed Black Howl Wolf. Kiasi says, Spam says, ZL Raw says, Roaring Temple we at boss, DPS and healer needed. Says, killed Shrewd Wolf. Says, killed Shrewd Wolf. Jake the Ginge says, we need tank for Temple of Slaughter. Says, killed Brutal Wolf. Jake the Ginge says, at boss. Says, T/T/T/T/T/. Akai Harlot says, Lily Garden recruiting new players or you can just join for buff and also for 9-5 people have barely have time to play but want to enjoy the game. Click my name and click the guild to join. Says, killed Brutal Wolf. Says, you have acquired Proof of Valor completion reward, S.
The ferocious wolves that inhabit the Black Howl Plains. Only intrepid
XF says, 107. Junecake says, any Butcher Canyon? Jake the Ginge says, we need tank. Jake the Ginge says, at boss. Says, killed Black Howl. Says, killed Fierce Wolf. Goob Moonin says, 50. Says, 1 new stat point, S, acquired. Distribute them in character info. Goob Moonin says, 50 na. Qlfi Biki. Goob Moonin says, 50 na. says 11. Says stat distribution. Goob Moonin says 15 a plus 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 plus. Prostitute says LF and nest grind. Says killed fierce wolf. Junecake says tank ready for Butcher's Canyon. Qlfi BIKT0 says BBPOE com sell cheap lucent, use code and quad TL5 and quad, get 5% off, HXC. Goob Moonin says 15 a plus 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 plus. Jila said, Goob Moonin says, 50 NPS plus 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 plus. Goob Moonin says, 50 DPS plus 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 plus. Says, you have entered a safe zone. Qlfi BIKT0 says, BBPOE com sell cheap lucent, use code and quad, TL5 and Goob Moonin says, 50 DPS plus 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 plus. Goob Moonin says, 50 DPS plus 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 5 equals 1. AI says, recruiting for NLT, Anaretex and GT, Aussie, lazy. Join us if you don't mind building a little chaos. PvP/PvE. Goob Moonin says 50 DPS plus 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 5 equals 1.
Never ever touch a monument stone or the abandoned armor when patrolling the ruins of terrain. The undead often hide under those.
Says Garden.
Ja, auf
No wonder I got goosebumps when I walked
Buschen.
nearby.
Goob Moonin says 50 DPS plus 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 plus. Set Qlfi BIKT0 says BBPOE com sell cheap lucent, use code and quad TL5 and quad, get 5% off. D. Goob Moonin says 50 DPS plus 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 5 says. Goob Moonin says 50 DPS plus 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 5 equals 1. Says, you have completed the 4 Amateur mount effects. NBGR says, 1. Qlfi BIKT0 says, POCOM sell cheap lucent, use code and quad, TL5 and quad, get 5% off, mil. Goob Moonin says, 50 DPS plus 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 5 equals 1. Says. Goob Moonin says 50 DPS plus 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 5 equals 1. Goob Moonin says 50 DPS plus 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 5 equals 1. Goob Moonin says 50 DPS plus 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 5 equals 1. Goob Moonin says, Qlfi BIKT0 says, POCOM sell cheap lucent, use code and quad, TL5 and quad, get 5% off, BZLH.
terrain always gives me the creeps.
Goob Moonin says 50 DPS plus 5 equals 1. Says 20 tilde ID.
Common in the town and prayer house ruins. Skeletons, though, are common in the hollows, where the ground is dug up.
Right. The patrol manager told me that earlier.
Never ever touch a monument stone or the abandoned armor when patrolling the ruins of terrain. The undead often hide under those.
Is that so? No wonder I got goosebumps when I walked nearby.
Says acquired Xena's staff. Ql5 BIKT0 says, BBPOE com sell cheap lucent, use code and quad, TL5 and quad, get 5%. Goob Moonin says, 50 DPS plus 5 equals 1. Says, use training do, 10,000 point. Goob Moonin says, 50 DPS plus 5 equals 1. Says, Goob Moonin says 50 DPS plus 5 equals 1. Goob Moonin says 50 DPS plus 5 equals 1. Goob Moonin says 50. Goob Moonin says 50 DPS plus. Goob Moonin says 50. Goob Moonin says 50 DPS. Goob Moonin says 50 DPS plus 5 equals 1. Bayabag says LFM and GT. Jake the Ginge says need Tang Temple of Slaughter LVL 50. Jake the Ginge says, need Tang Temple of says, used Dimensional Soul Shard Selection Chest, 1 star. Bayabag says, LFM and GT, 2 slot DPS DOS. One he says, LF and GT, chill and active members to join us. Rank 16 at Godsend PH. Bayabag says, LFM and GT, 1 slot DPS DOS.
I know. I don't even want to look in the direction of
Jake the Ginge says, need Tang Temple of Slaughter LVL 50 at boss.
Prayer house ruins. Skeletons, though, are common in the hollows, where the ground is dug up.
Right. The patrol manager told me that earlier.
Never ever touch a monument stone or the abandoned armor when patrolling the ruins of terrain. The undead often hide under those.
Is that so? No wonder I got goosebumps when I walked nearby.
Jake the Ginge says, need Tang Temple of Slaughter LVL 50 at boss. Says, used Dimensional Soul Shard Selection Chest, 1 star. Says, quality weapon Grove Stone X2 has been consumed in inventory. Says, quality weapon Grove Stone X2 has been consumed in it. Says, quality weapon Grove Stone X2 has been consumed in inventory. Says, repeat enchant has been cancelled due to insufficient materials.
That wind from the ruins of Terrain always gives me the creeps.
I know. I don't even want to look in the direction of that undead den.
You know, zombies are very common in the town and prayer house ruins. Skeletons, though, are common in the hollows, where the ground is dug up.
Right. The patrol manager told me that earlier.
Never ever touch a monument stone or the abandoned armor when patrolling the ruins of Terrain. The undead often hide under those.
Gid Strider says, LFP Temple of Slaughter DPS. Jake the Ginge says, need tank Temple of Slaughter LVL 50 at boss. Says, current weapon. Says, new weapon appearance has been applied. Says, new weapon appearance has been applied. Says, current. Says, new weapon appearance has been applied. LJZP says, 778. Jake the Ginge says, need tank Temple of Slaughter LVL 50 at boss. Says, you have entered a peace zone. Jake the Ginge says, need tank Temple of Slaughter LVL 50 at boss. Gameister says, reset there is an idiot. Says, killed Fierce Wolf. Blue Yup says, a ball pakey you. Panpasu says, Vakapet says, Adaka Gada 2. Gameister says, W8, says, killed Shrewd Wolf.
Nah, nge-lag. Off dulu ya.